Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. The big story. Pressure is mounting in Washington as President Donald Trump signs a new bill ordering the release of long-awaited files from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. With victims demanding transparency and lawmakers overwhelmingly backing the move, questions are resurfacing about who may be implicated and what the documents will ultimately reveal. Here's a report by Meenakshi Shandilia.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
US President Donald Trump has announced that he has signed the bill ordering the release of Epstein files. The US Department of Justice previously said that it could release all the information of the investigation of all the wrongdoings of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein within 30 days. In the past, Trump opposed to release the files, but after the pressure from the victims and the opposition Republicans, he changed his stance. The US House passed the bill with 427 votes in favor and 1 in against. The Senate has also given unanimous consent to pass the bill.
Well, Mr. President, Donald Trump has tried to cover up for Jeffrey Epstein long enough. It's time that the Senate finish the job to finally compel the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files. A few hours ago, the House of Representatives passed their Epstein bill with as lopsided as a vote as you can get, 427 to 1. It's now the Senate's turn. In a few moments, I will ask unanimous consent for the Senate to pass the Epstein bill as soon as it comes over from the House. My unanimous consent request guarantees that the Senate will immediately pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act without any further action as soon as it comes over from the House.
While the US officials claim to follow the transparency while releasing the documents, bill still allows withholding documents that affect personal privacy or ongoing investigations. Republican Congressman Thomas Massey raised concerns that Trump can try to interrupt the release of documents by opening a number of investigations.
We will continue to follow the law with maximum transparency while protecting victims.
Around 20,000 pages from Epstein's estate were released last week, including 2018 messages where Jeffrey Epstein claimed that he could take down Donald Trump and called him dirty, despite the two having been friends in the early 2000s. As of now, Trump is not accused of any wrongdoings. Former US Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has also resigned from OpenAI's board of directors. His resignation comes after the release of emails claiming his close relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, even long after the financier found guilty of child trafficking and prostitution of young girls. Jeffrey Epstein, a wealthy financier who mingled with powerful figures across business, politics, and academia, was accused of trafficking girls and young boys, and his 2019 arrest intensified demands for answers about his network and enablers.
I want to speak goodness and love and hope into the women standing behind me and all of the other survivors whose names you don't even know, but stand with these women. These women have fought the most horrific fight that no woman should have to fight, and they did it by banding together and never giving up. And that's what we did by fighting so hard against the most powerful people in the world, even the President of the United States, in order to make this vote happen today.
This is me at 16 when I met Jeffrey Epstein. I'm here because as a child, I was pulled into Jeffrey Epstein's world, a world built on exploitation and manipulation of innocence and the protection of powerful men and women who believed that they were untouchable.
While Trump and his allies often framed the case as a cover-up protecting Democrats, his own ties to Epstein raised questions about what he knew and was he the part of the network. The scandal, compounded by Epstein's death in jail, known as a suicide, deepened the public distrust and fueled widespread suspicion that the key details were hidden or ignored. With Meenakshi Shandelia, Bureau Report, India Today.
The H-1B visa fee hike is once again in news. Speaking at US-Saudi Investment Forum in Washington, US President Donald Trump argued in favor of H-1B visa fee hike, pushing back against hardline immigration skeptics in America. He said that this would allow US companies to hire highly skilled foreign workers, countering the MAGA supporters who are against this bill. Trump claimed that to build advanced industries in the United States, they need skilled foreign workforce, but the H-1B visa is not anti-MAGA. It is essential for U.S. competitiveness.
To bring people to get those plants opened, we want you to do that, and we want those people to teach our people how to make computer chips and how to make other things. You can't come in, and I'm explaining, you can't come in, open up a massive computer chip factory for billions and billions of dollars like is being done in Arizona, and think you're going to hire people off an unemployment line to run it. They're going to have to bring thousands of people with them, and I'm going to welcome those people. Now, I love my conservative friends. I love MAGA, but this is MAGA. And those people are going to teach our people how to make computer chips. And in a short period of time, our people are going to be doing great. And those people can go home where they probably always want to be. You know, when people are born someplace, they tend to want to go, and we have the greatest country in the world.
Now, despite spending months attacking each other during New York mayoral elections, President Donald Trump and Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani have now agreed to meet at the White House on Friday, that is 21st of November. Trump announced the meeting on Truth Social, calling Mamdani a communist and confirming that they will meet at the Oval Office. Mamdani's team has also clarified the same. Mamdani said that even though he and Trump were at loggerheads during the elections, he still wants to talk to Trump about important issues like public safety, economic security, and other priority areas he promised his voters. Mamdani also plans to urge Trump not to cut off SNAP food benefits that Trump did during the US shutdown. Trump, who previously insulted Mamdani and even joked about deporting him, has recently softened his tone and agreed to discuss how they can work together, particularly in the city of New York. Now, the United States has approved a major new defense deal for India valued at $93 million and centered on advanced battlefield weapons. The sale, which includes Javelin anti-tank missiles and precision Excalibur artillery rounds, marks another step forward in the growing strategic partnership between Washington and New Delhi. 9 months after Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump pledged to deepen defense ties, the proposal now heads to Congress for final review. A report by Meenakshi Shandelia.
United States has approved $93 million defense deal for India. The deal includes the sale of Javelin anti-tank missiles and Excalibur precision artillery projectiles. The deal has come 9 months after Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump met in Washington and committed to advance defense ties. The deal includes 100 FGM-148 Javelin missiles, 25 lightweight command launch units, and 260 Excalibur artillery rounds, along with training support and inspection. Defense Security Cooperation Agency said that the proposed deal will strengthen the US-Indian strategic relationship and to improve the security of a major defense partner, which continues to be an important force for political stability, peace, and economic progress in the Indo-Pacific and South Asia regions. Javelin missiles made by RTX and Lockheed Martin help troops hit armored targets at long range. It has shown its power on modern battlefields, especially in Ukraine, where it helped destroy large number of T-72 and T-90 tanks. Meanwhile, the Excalibur round offer GPS-guided accuracy to reduce collateral damage. The proposal has been sent to Congress to review and raise if there are any objections. With Meenakshi Sandilya, Bureau Report, India Today.
After the Gaza 20-point peace plan, President Donald Trump has now drafted a 28-point peace plan to end the over 3.5-year war between Russia and Ukraine. This is ahead of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and his meeting with U.S. Army officials in Kiev. The proposal would require Kiev to cede eastern Donbas region and limit the size of its military in exchange for American security guarantees.
No, on this subject matter, I can only say what we have already repeated many times yesterday. We cannot add anything new to what was said in Anchorage. Any time is the best for a peaceful settlement, for a settlement by peaceful political and diplomatic means. Russia remains open for this settlement. A settlement must lead to the elimination of the root cause of this conflict. This is what we say, time and again.
However, several provisions, including territorial concessions in areas currently not controlled by Russia, have long been viewed in Kiev as unacceptable. Meanwhile, the U.S. officials have not announced any official plan. The plan is still in the early draft stage, and the main points are not finalized yet. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio stated that the documents are just a list of potential suggestions and not the complete proposal. Gen Z are once again on the roads in Nepal. Fresh protests have erupted in the Bara district of Nepal, mainly led by Gen Z and CPM-UML party workers who are angry about corruption, unemployment, and political instability. The confrontation intensified near Samara Airport, where the police used tear gas and detained local ward officials. After the situation turned violent, authorities imposed a curfew to prevent further clashes. The youth-led movement first gained momentum in September when large-scale demonstrations across Nepal forced Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli out of power. Even after that uprising, deeper issues like corruption, lack of jobs, mistrust in political parties were not resolved. That frustration has now resurfaced, triggering new protests. Political controversy has erupted after Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir Prime Minister Anwarul Haq openly claimed that Pakistani armed groups carried out the Red Fort attack inside India. This is the first public acknowledgement from a Pakistani leader linking Pakistan-backed groups to a major terrorist strike in the heart of the Indian capital. His shocking statement, seen as an open endorsement to terrorism, Haq bragged that Pakistan hit India from within and the count of Indian casualties was still unknown. Analysts believe that Pakistan is trying to shift its terror activities away from Kashmir to India's interiors. India has long accused Pakistan of sponsoring terrorism. Today, Pakistan has practically confessed.
रिकॉर्ड ने ये बात सुनी तारीख ने कि मैंने ये कहा कश्मीर हाउस में बैठ के कि अगर नहीं बाज आओगे बलूचिस्तान को ब्लीड करने से तो लाल किले से लेकर कश्मीर के जंगलों तक तुम्हें घुस के मारेंगे। और अल्लाह के फजल करम से इस गुनाहगार के लफ्जों की अल्लाह पाक ने हुर्मत रखी। चंद दिनों बाद हमारी मुसल्लह अफवाज ने, हमारे शाहीनों ने अंदर घुस के मारा और ऐसा मारा आज तक त्यारों की गिनती पूरी नहीं हुई।
However, Pakistan has also been slammed by International Monetary Fund over its corruption and increasing debt case. IMF has released Governance and Corruption Diagnostic Assessment Report for Pakistan, stating that corruption remains a serious challenge that continues to undermine its economic and institutional performance. Now, a daring jewel theft, a museum on lockdown, and one sharply dressed teen who stole the spotlight. But before we get to the French detective, France had one more twist, a diplomatic clapback aimed straight at Donald Trump, Who is the teen everyone's talking about? Kshitija Gosavi with this report.
The French embassy just served Donald Trump a clapback so stylish it could only be French. After Trump hinted, the US has had a lot of problems with the French.
We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, you know, they put 25% taxes on American products.
They responded with that viral Louvre detective photo and the caption, I quote, "Come on, we've got way better spies than China." And that brings us to the real story behind the teen who accidentally became France's most fashionable spy. Move over TikTok trends. There is a new style icon in town, and he's just 15. Meet Pedro alias Garçon Delvaux, the French teen who went viral for looking like he stepped straight out of a 1940s detective film. When a shocking jewel heist rocked the Louvre, the internet wasn't just searching for the stolen crown. They were obsessed with this sharply dressed young man. Dressed in a three-piece suit and fedora, Pedro was instantly dubbed the French detective. But the truth, he's not solving crimes, just redefining teenage style. From a diplomat father to an art-loving mother, beauty runs in the family. His watch, found in Calcutta. His first tailored suit, made in Bangladesh when he was just 12. Now, millions online call him the time traveler. Pedro says it's simple. Good taste never goes out of style. From viral fame to vintage fame, this teen detective may not have found the jewels, but he has stolen the internet's heart. With Kshitija Gosavi, Bureau Report, India Today.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Today Global. But before I go, how can we forget statecraft? Today, we discuss China and how China didn't just bankroll the developing world, it quietly financed America. Over $200 billion, 2,500 projects, and 2 decades of hidden influence. Our next report reveals how Beijing became the secret banker of US economy itself. Goodbye and take care. China's massive global lending spree has been sold to the world as the Developing Nation Rescue Mission, a Belt and Road spectacle, a grand strategy aimed at Africa, Asia, and Latin America. But a bombshell study now blows that entire narrative to pieces. The United States, yes, the same country that warns everyone else about Chinese debt traps, has secretly been the biggest beneficiary of Chinese loans for 2 whole decades. More than $200 billion, nearly 2,500 covert and not-so-covert projects, funding everything from pipelines to tech takeovers to LNG terminals on American soil. The world thought Beijing was bankrolling ports in Sri Lanka, but in reality, it was bankrolling America. So how did the US become China's top borrower while lecturing the world about Chinese influence? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. For years, Washington wagged its finger at nations tempted by Chinese credit, accusing Beijing of predatory lending, asset seizures, and debt trap diplomacy. The US told Africa to be careful, Asia to resist, Europe to stay vigilant. But quietly, discreetly, and strategically, the United States itself was taking in billions, and not just for harmless corporate cash flow, but for critical assets, strategic minerals, and high-tech companies aligned with China's national security ambitions. How did the superpower warning others about Chinese loans become the world's biggest recipient of them? Over the past 2 decades, Chinese official lenders, state-owned banks, sovereign enterprises, and government-backed financiers poured $2.2 trillion into over 200 countries, reshaping the global financial landscape. The assumption was always that these loans targeted struggling nations, countries needing cheap cash for ports, power grids, dams, railways, and Belt and Road mega projects. But the new aid data study flips this idea upside down. It reveals that China's lending focus has dramatically shifted, with more than 3/4 of it now going to upper middle and high income countries. That means the world's richest economies, the US, the UK, Germany, Australia, and major EU states, became the true center of China's credit empire. This wasn't charity, this was strategy. Beijing wasn't chasing goodwill, it was chasing leverage. And in that high-income club, America stands at the very top. The US received more than $200 billion across nearly 2,500 activities, each one carefully threaded into the American economic bloodstream. China backed LNG export terminals in Texas and Louisiana, financed airport terminals in New York and Los Angeles, supported pipelines including major oil routes, and even extended liquidity lines to America's biggest corporations: Amazon, AT&T, Verizon, Tesla, Ford, General Motors, Boeing, Disney. These Fortune 500 giants dipped into Chinese-backed credit pools, often through syndicates of international banks, where Chinese lenders quietly held a slice of influence. These weren't concessional loans to help poor nations. These were strategic injections into the world's most advanced economy. But infrastructure wasn't the end game. China used its financial firepower to burrow into America's technological core. State-backed loans helped Chinese firms acquire key US tech players over the years: semiconductor specialist OmniVision Technologies, automation powerhouse Javelin Company, and electronics giant Ingram Micro. Financial influence doesn't require ownership. It requires presence. It requires entanglement. It requires interdependence. Beijing understands this, and for years, the US didn't. Now the script is flipped. The West is scrambling. Washington is trying to build its own lending machine. Europe is trying to fortify its investment screening. The G7 is trying to reverse engineer a system China perfected over decades. Because the real revelation of this study is simple. While the world debated ports in Sri Lanka, Beijing built a financial empire inside the world's richest economies, with the United States standing at the very top. And the world's biggest borrower now has to answer something very uncomfortable. How did China quietly become the banker of the American century?